Alright, if you're watching this video and you're new to Zapier, this is the video you've probably wanted to get to, is how do we start making some automation happen. So I'm going to use an example where we are creating a form using FormStack, one of my preferred form builders, and then I want it to go into Google Sheets. So if you are looking into the Explore area or the Apps area, you can do something where you plug in both of the different software systems. So I entered FormStack and I clicked on FormStack and then entered Google Sheets and selected Google Sheets, and it will give me an idea or a template on whether those integrate, and these two softwares in fact integrate. So I'm going to just use this off-the-shelf template where it has FormStack with Google Sheets. So add new FormStack form entries to Google Sheets as a new row. I'm going to select that and use that quote-unquote off-the-shelf template. So I need to connect my accounts, and these are, you'll have to integrate these initially if you haven't already done so. I've created a brief form called Zapier testing form for this example, and then I haven't submitted any data, so if I hit test and review, it's gonna not find any usable information. It's gonna probably find the fields that are in this form, but it's really not gonna help me map out where I want to send the information in Google Sheets. So I'm gonna go over to my testing form within FormStack, and I'm gonna just fill in some fictitious information. When you're doing this, I always want to fill in as many fields as possible. This is important when you're mapping out the fields. And I'm going to say home phone. Let's see, 415-444. Okay. And then I'm going to fill out my Gmail. And let's see, I'm going to hit submit. And this is again just some basic information to get me started. Now it's still searching for data. You can cancel this and test and review again. That typically speeds up the process. Now let's look at the information that is pulled in. You can see all the information that I just entered is now within Zapier. So this is great. This is how we're going to manipulate the information and add it to our spreadsheet within Google Sheets. Here I'm going to hit done editing, and then I'm going to click into the create spreadsheet row in Google Sheets. My action, again, you could do a different action, but I want to just add or update a row. I'm going to create a spreadsheet row, hit continue. I'm going to make sure I click into my personal account, which is in my drive, and the spreadsheet. It's going to typically pull up your most recently manipulated sheets or created sheets. So again, I created a fictitious sheet saying Zapier testing Google Sheet, and then here's my spreadsheet, currently blank. And that's not super helpful, and we're going to see why here in just a second. But it's going to find that sheet name, and then it's not going to find anything. It didn't see any headers or information where we can categorize things. So I am going to copy the fields from our form. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to say first name and last name because I'd like to split those up just in case I need to in the future. First, I'm going to say last, and then let's look at the other information. We have address, home phone, email, and comments. So we may want to split this up even though this is combined into one major field. I'm going to say street 2, city, state, zip, and then phone, comments. Oh, I forgot email. Let's put an email. All right, so now we have some headers. Let's refresh our fields. All right. The other thing you can do here is you might want to rename this. So Zapier preview form sheet. Let's see. Okay. And then we're going to go back here, and instead of sheet 1, I now can see Zapier preview sheet. It's going to find the same information. Now, from here, I can hard code information here. So if I just typed in Jim as the first name, it would always input Jim into this column. But that's not what I want. I want this information to be dynamic. So I'm going to pull the field from the first step. So again, our trigger is this form stack submission, and our subsequent action is going to be plugging in that information into a Google Sheet. So I can see my split name first. I don't want the full name here as it's shown because it's going to show up exactly like you see. It's going to say first equals John space last equals Smith. But I want a split name first, last name, street. Again, I'm going to do the split address information. Street number 2 is going to be, if I keep scrolling down, split address 2. Sometimes, again, the information doesn't populate in this drop down exactly how it's input, so sometimes you have to search around. If you have a really long form, you may have to use this search bar up top. So I'm going to say split, or I'm sorry, city, and I'm going to find the split address city. And then state, again, you can quickly type that in, and then zip here. My phone number, I have 415. Okay, so we've got that plugged in. Email, all right, and then comments, testing. All right, now we're able to test this integration. I'm going to say test and review. The test spreadsheet row was sent to Google Sheets just now. Let's see. Boom. So there we have our automation. Now let's test this out with brand new information. Instead of, we're going to say done editing. Then we're going to turn this on. You can either click up here, or it will ask you to go ahead and turn it on. All right, now we have a live Zap, and I'm going to say Sally Jones. I'm going to leave the rest of the information. I might take out building number, and let's just say a new email address. And I've submitted it. Now let's go look at our Zapier test sheet, and we now have some automation that is live, and you can see the exact information. I cleared out that street number because it was not required, and we have Sally Jones information in here. We now have some automation going. How about some more tips though on how to best practices? So I'm going to go back to my setup. I am going to label this. I think it's important to always label your triggers and steps. So I'm going to say Zapier test form submission. I know it's in form stack, so I don't necessarily need to label that. This I'm going to label with add new row for Zapier test Google Sheet. Just some information to help me remember exactly what's going on with that step. You can also find some information over here where we would say maybe this helps you remember exactly what's going on. This step adds the form submission to Google Sheets. All right, so that might just trigger, because at times your Zaps will get very complex and you'll not remember exactly why you have a step in the process. So adding information, more detailed information, is really critical to staying organized. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename this Zapier test form submission so that I know exactly what that Zap is when I'm in my dashboard. I should be able to see it here, and I can categorize it in any of my folders here on the left hand side. Next thing I'm going to show you is you can add a subsequent step. Obviously most Zaps are not going to be just 2 steps. I am going to add a step here, and you can select from the 1500 plus Zapier integrations here, but I know I want to send a text message maybe to the recipient of this Zap. The SMS by Zapier is something you are going to be able to do more for internal team members. If you want to send an external text to someone, maybe a client or a lead, I would suggest using Twilio. There's very similar applications out there, but Twilio is a really great program you can utilize to send external text messages. So I'm going to use this SMS by Zapier, send SMS, because it doesn't charge me. It is free natively to Zapier. I'm going to send to my cell phone, and then I'm going to hit OK. And you can select any phone number here. I'm going to select a local phone number, and I'm going to say thank you for your test Zapier submission. And I'm going to say, I'm going to use some dynamic information, and I'm going to, let's cut and paste that. Thank you, John, for your test Zapier submission. And I'm going to hit OK and test and continue. And you can see it here on my excuse me, my text messages I just received. Let's minimize that. Alright, so thank you, John, for your test Zapier submission. So that is now working. Now, if I decided I wanted to move this step to the second step, unfortunately, you cannot drag and drop, so you really need to think about where you want the steps placed. Some it won't matter, and others it will matter, such as if you are using dynamic information from your Google Sheet. Say there was information within here that I wanted to make sure and add, like say the spreadsheet row here. Let's go back to our spreadsheet. I want to make sure instead of just phone number, and on my form here you can see it's just listed as a home phone, I want to add a mobile phone. So let's go back. I'm going to add a new category or column called cell phone, and I need to add a new field in my form stack. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to call it cell phone. Alright, now I'm going to view my live form, and let's turn this back on. You're going to need to have this on to receive live information. So if I submit this information without turning it back on, it's not going to be caught by the Zapier integration. So let's go ahead and submit, and let's see here. Alright, so now we have information here that has been submitted. I'm going to refresh these fields. So instead of cell phone here, because it was grabbing, you can see everything has been kind of pushed down because I integrated this field. So we're going to need to remap out and make sure everything's aligned properly. Let's see here. You won't see the cell phone, or you may not see it. I'm missing choices. Let's complete step 1 again. So I need to get more samples because I need that most recent submission here. And you're going to see, all right, now I have the cell phone. So now I am all set. I'm going to shrink this down, find data. I'm done editing that first one. I need to now recategorize or map out these fields. Everything subsequent to this new field seems to be populated correctly. So let's go to cell phone. and I need to find it on my submission. I see it here. Phone number, that's obviously not the phone number, that's the email. So I'm going to say, oops, phone. It's just going to bring up both. I'm going to map my home phone there, email, and then comments. Continue. So in order to maybe send an external text, I can add it either here or here. But we're gonna add an external text here. Let's see, Tulio. Choose action. I'm gonna send an SMS. Again, I'm just selecting the connected accounts from phone number. I'm gonna select that phone number that we have on our form stack submission. Now, one critical item you're gonna want to see is, oops, I'm sorry, that's in the wrong field. You're not gonna want to put anything there. Here's where I'm gonna want to put the to number. I want to send a message to the cell phone. As it's noted here, you will need to put a 1 or the country code in front of the phone number in order for it to be delivered. So I'm going to say the message, hello. Again, I'm going to use some dynamic information. John, it was great to meet you today. Thanks for coming to the event. We'll say send large messages, so this means that they are over the 160 characters. I usually put yes just because it will send it out if it's a longer text message. I'm gonna skip the test. Again, not necessarily recommended when you're first starting out, but this will help alleviate, make the process go a little bit quicker once you get the hang of things. All right, so now that we have an external text set up, I'm going to use this form again to now test the information. I'm going to say, I'm going to send it to myself. All right, so oops, yeah, there you go. It's okay. So here's some information, testing 3. All right, so now let's take a look at this. Now that we've submitted, we should see our external text that we expected. Let's see. Close this down a little bit. All right, so thank you, Ross, for your Zapier submission. And then here's the phone number, the external text. Hello, Ross. It was great to meet you today. Thanks for coming to the event. So that sent an external text. And let's take a look. We now have it on our Google Sheet as well. So now you're starting to see how we can leverage an individual submission or a form to be populated in multiple places and even create a better customer experience by sending them a text message and giving them updates via text or email. We'll go dive deeper into more applications of this here on subsequent videos, but hopefully that explains how to get started with a Zap.